05. What would you do if the love you thought you knew turned out to be someone else's secret? 510s. Hey, I'm Marcus Reed, an investigative producer who spent 10 years digging into courtroom drama and hidden wealth scandals. 1015s. Stick around and you'll watch a diary that shattered a marriage, papers that busted a fraud, and a town that blew up when the truth hit the front page. 1530s. Disclaimer. We've changed names to keep folks safe. Every event comes from public records and solid news outlets. 3045's first source. A court docket filed on Feb. 12/2024 shows fraud and false statement charges linked to a hidden second marriage. Source: Reuters. The camera sweeps across a patchwork of golden fields with a lone church steeple stabbing the horizon. A thin mist hangs on the low hills, dulling the far-off hum of a tractor. "Welcome to Willow Creek," the narrator whispers, "a town where everyone knows your name and, until now, your secrets." Inside a weathered farmhouse, dust motes twirl in a shaft of afternoon light. Aisha, 30-something, eyes heavy with fatigue, drags an old ladder up into the attic. She hoists a sagging trunk, its hinges squealing in protest. "I was looking for old photographs," she says, voice shaking, "but I stumbled on something else." She cracks open a leather-bound diary, its pages yellowed from years of neglect. The first entry, dated March 2024, says, "Tonight I'll meet her at the cabin. Time to live the life I've hidden." The words blur as Aisha's hand trembles. The screen blazes betrayal in stark white. A quick cut to the Reuters docket reveals the husband, labeled only Mr. K, facing fraud charges for hiding a second marriage. The legal language is chilly, yet the personal sting is clear. He lied to the state, to lenders, and to his own family. Source: Reuters. NPR's investigation throws another layer into the mix. A separate household 30 miles from Willow Creek was kept in plain sight of neighbors who thought they were watching a friendly farmer's son. Source: NPR. The narrator overlays a map, a red dot pulsing over the hidden home. The diary's next page logs a money move. Received $12,000 from J. Patel for equipment. No record in the books. The SEC filing backs the mystery, listing undisclosed assets tied to a partner's name that never showed up in the agribusiness's public filings. Source: SEC. A flash of police tape flickers on screen. The AP report says that on March 28, 2024, Aisha dialed 911, saying she'd found evidence of an affair in her own home. Source: AP. The narrator lets a ringing phone echo, then cuts to the vacant hallway where the call originated. Community reaction erupts next. Social media feeds scroll, hashtags shocking betrayal and Willow Creek scandal lighting up the trends. The Washington Post piece paints locals huddled at the diner, whispering, "We thought we knew him. We thought we knew each other." Source: Washington Post. The camera lingers on a weathered sign. "Family Diner, open since 1952. Aisha stands in the attic, diary pressed to her chest, each line's weight crushing her. "My marriage was a lie," she says, voice cracking, "and now the whole town is watching me fall." The narrator's tone tightens, urgency thick in the air. She peers out the attic window at the same fields she once tended beside her husband. The wind brings the scent of fresh earth, yet the air feels foreign. "If I stay silent, the fraud lives on. If I speak, I risk everything, my kids, my reputation, the community that raised us." The stakes climb with each breath. The camera cuts to a close-up of the diary's final entry, ink smudged. "I can't keep pretending. Tomorrow I go to court." A gavel's echo drifts faintly. The screen fades to black, leaving only the word betrayal pulsing once more. "What happens when a wife uncovers a husband's double life?" the narrator asks, "and how does a small town survive the shock?" The final beat hangs, a silent invitation to keep watching. Beat 2. End of cold open. Aisha planted herself on the splintered porch of the house she'd shared with Amir for 12 long years, her fingers white-knuckled around a notebook, while her other hand held a recorder that blinked like a warning light. The evening breeze carried a whisper of pine from the woods, but what really stank was the air of suspicion neighbors lingered on the edges of their lawns, eyes darting like nervous rabbits, lips pressed tight like they'd swallowed their words whole. She zeroed in on Mrs. Patel, that sharp-eyed retired schoolteacher who'd seen more cul-de-sac drama than daytime TV and had lived through it all without blinking. "Mrs. Patel," Aisha said, her voice steady as a judge's gavel even though her stomach felt like it was tied in knots. "You've been here forever. Tell me what you've seen with Amir lately." The woman's hands trembled as she wrung them together before she finally cracked, her voice dropping to a conspirator's hush. "He'd slip out after dark, always heading toward that old mill road. We figured he was checking on his farm, but he never rolled back in before sunrise, and his car reeked of diesel instead of regular gas." The screen flickers to a blurry security still, headlights disappearing down a dirt path at 11 p.m., swallowed by the dark like Amir's secrets. Next door, Mr. Alvarez wiped his hands on a rag that had seen better days, his voice gruff as a diesel engine. He'd bring the truck in for a quick tune-up, but the receipts never added up. Sometimes the bay was empty, yet those parts were swapped out. Felt like he was playing three-card Monte with the whole town. Aisha's brain started piecing it together, late-night comings and goings, excuses that didn't hold water, a town that talked in hushed tones but never to his face. She leaned in, pressing harder. "Has anyone ever spotted him over at that hick town past the ridge?" A murmur ran through the crowd like a spilled drink. Alvarez scratched his chin. "There's talk of a second place about 30 miles east. People swear they see lights on at the exact moment he vanishes." 30 miles. The words flash across the screen, bouncing off the walls like a bad rumor, right in line with that NPR piece calling him out for maintaining a parallel household 30 miles away, hidden from neighbors and local cops. Source, NPR. Aisha's next stop, paperwork. She stormed the county clerk's office, dug up the February 12, 2024 docket, and nearly choked on the charges: fraud and false statements tied to a secret second marriage. Source, Reuters. The real kicker: Amir had filed a marriage license under a fake name in Willow Creek, a detail that lined up perfectly with the rumor mill's second house story. Then she hit the SEC filings for his modest agribusiness, which looked about as legit as a $3 bill. The fine print listed undisclosed assets under a partner named El Cor, a ghost on every tax form. Source, SEC. That wasn't just shady bookkeeping. It smelled like the engine funding his double life. The camera zeroes in on a spreadsheet, red circles pulsing around undisclosed assets like a neon sign screaming cover-up. Armed with the truth, Aisha marched home, where the house was dead silent except for the fridge's lazy hum. In the hallway, a wooden box yawned open, stuffed with folded letters postmarked from Willow Creek. The notes were short, signed with initials and buzzworded with phrases like farm expansion and new lease, words that never crossed Amir's lips in public. She snapped photos, then dialed 911. According to the AP log, her call went through on March 28, 2024, reporting suspicious correspondence found in residence. Source, AP. Cops showed up, their cruiser lights painting the living room in strobing blues and reds, and bagged the letters as evidence. The air hums with a low, throbbing score, like the quiet before a storm cracks the sky open. But the real story wasn't just in the papers. It was in the town's split personality. The Washington Post nailed it with that viral hashtag, shocking betrayal, calling this a textbook betrayal scandal that lit up every feed. Source, Washington Post. Yet while half the neighbors hurled digital tomatoes, the other half fired off vague mind-your-business replies, a loyalty pact that smelled like old money and older secrets. She corralled 3 locals, Mrs. Patel, Mr. Alvarez, and Jenna, a farmer whose boots were caked with more dirt than manners, for a sit-down session. Mrs. Patel sighed. "We look out for our own here. When the SHT hits the fan, we tuck it away, keeps the peace." Jenna crossed her arms. "There's this quiet council, no official title, but they pull the strings, decide who gets water rights, who gets potholes fixed." Amir played ball, so most folks kept their mouths shut. Alvarez topped it off with a grim chuckle. "Point fingers and the whole town goes up in smoke. We're small, gossip travels faster than a prairie fire. That's why we whisper instead of shout." The screen cuts to a town hall meeting, rows of empty chairs, a dusty ledger abandoned on the podium, visual shorthand for the power lurking in the shadows. Aisha's notebook bristled with contradictions, court docs, hidden assets, secret letters, and a town code written in silence. The weight of the choice: pressed down, publish the bombshell and blow the town apart, or bury it and let lies fester. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One line: "Don't go public, we'll handle this." The threat hung in the air like cigarette smoke. "Don't go public." The words blink on screen, the font trembling like a judge's gavel. Isha stared at the screen, her recorder still spinning lazily. Outside, a train's distant horn echoed, proof the world kept spinning no matter how many hearts got broken along the way. She made her call. The documents would hit the press, but she'd shield the brave souls who'd spoken up. Her voice, steady now, cut through the static. Truth exposed can't be buried, but the fallout, that's a bill paid in human cost. The camera pulls back from Aisha's jaw set like concrete, fading into a star-studded sky, each twinkle a silent witness to the coming storm. The investigation had peeled back layers of lies, exposed a money trail slicker than oil, and laid bare a town's unspoken rules. This wasn't just about Amir anymore. It was a showdown between daylight and the old boys network that held the town together. Aisha's next move would decide if the whispers turned into a scream, or if the town's loyalty swallowed the scandal whole. The music swells, a rising tide of tension, as the screen dissolves to black, leaving viewers teetering on the edge of the next explosive chapter. Aisha's phone lit up like a Christmas tree with that single upload, the kind that hits you right in the gut. Dozens of photos, bank statements, and this grainy video showing Mohammed's keycard swipes when he thought no one was looking. Her thumb hovered over post like it was the last lifeline in a sinking ship. Then she hit it. The numbers exploded like fireworks on the 4th of July. Within minutes, that post was plastered across every local feed, the caption screaming, "You're a stranger to me." The whole thing spiraled out of control faster than a greased pig at a county fair. The Washington Post couldn't resist jumping in, calling it a shocking betrayal scandal that lit up every platform like a wildfire. Source: Washington Post feature. Screenshots flew faster than you could say forward, and hashtags turned this sleepy farm town into the talk of the nation. Turns out, the cops had their own front row seat to the disaster. AP News dug up the 911 call logs, March 28, 2024, and let's just say Isha's voice wasn't exactly steady when she told the dispatcher about that envelope stuffed with love letters in her closet. Source: AP News report. The dispatcher's notes practically screamed she was shaking. Fast forward to the next day, and we're live in the studio where Mohammed's sitting across from some anchor who looks like they just swallowed a lemon. He starts with the usual, "My marriage is the only one I have" spiel, but you could see the panic flicker in his eyes as the camera panned to the screenshots flashing behind him. Then, bam, his mask slipped. Swallowed hard, voice cracking like a teenager's, and out came the words, "I never meant to hurt anyone." The anchor didn't even blink, just let the silence hang there like a bad smell. The feed cut to a montage of Main Street, where the whole town was gathering like it was the county fair, except the vibe was pure shock. Backstage, the court papers didn't waste any time. Filed on February 12, 2024, and boom, fraud and false statements, charges tied to that hidden second marriage. Source: court records. The indictment didn't just call him a cheater. It painted a picture of a guy who'd been lying about everything, not just to his wife, but to banks, to the government, to his own neighbors. NPR's deep dive added the kind of detail that makes you question what you thought you knew. Turns out Mohammed had been running a whole second life 30 miles away, fully furnished house, neighbors who never batted an eye, cops who never set foot inside. Source: NPR Investigative news article. This wasn't just some fling. It was a full-blown operation with money moving under the table. Then came the SEC filing for his agribusiness, and suddenly the whole charade started to smell like last week's leftovers. The document listed assets under some partner's name, someone who'd never shown up in any public paperwork. Mohammed had been swearing up and down that his farm was solely family-owned, but those papers told a different story. Source: SEC Edgar filing. Translation: there was a whole shadow economy feeding off his profits. The town cracked open like an overripe melon. At the community center, old friends of the couple stood on opposite sides of a coffee table that had seen better days. "He was always there for us," one neighbor said, voice wobbling like a jello mold. "Now we see he was lying to everyone," shot back the other, jaw set like a vice. The loyalty split couldn't have been sharper if it tried. Social media turned into a gladiator arena. Split-screen videos popped up everywhere, one side Aisha's post, the other Mohammed's tearful TV moment. Comments flew like confetti at a parade, some defending him, others demanding his head on a platter. That Facebook group, once the go-to spot for potluck recipes, now it was a war zone of accusations. And then the investigators dug up the real kicker. Those fraud charges, turned out they weren't just about the second marriage. Mohammed had been lying on loan applications, inflating his farm's revenue while hiding cash from that mystery partner's grain trading gig. That partner, linked to a syndicate under federal scrutiny, source, court records, SEC Edgar filing. Suddenly, this wasn't just a marriage gone wrong. It was a full-blown criminal operation, siphoning government money into black market pockets. The scandal wasn't personal anymore. It was a threat to the whole agricultural community's integrity. Aisha's post, now archived as evidence, and it lit the fuse on a truth bomb that couldn't be contained. That viral storm didn't just expose one man's double life. It unraveled a web of lies stretching from her kitchen table to the highest levels of deception. Weeks later, town meetings became more heated than a July afternoon in a tin-roofed church. Some folks wanted Mohammed behind bars yesterday, while others whined about how he'd helped the local economy. The divide stayed, but the blinders were off. Everyone could see the currents running beneath their quiet little town. The Washington Post wrapped it all up in their final report. A shocking betrayal scandal that turned a normal rural marriage into a national warning label about unchecked power and secrecy. Source: Washington Post feature. And as the camera pulls back over the endless grain fields, you can almost hear the wind whispering, this town ain't ever gonna be the same. A wife's courage kicked open a door, and there's no slamming it shut again. Aisha is perched on her front porch, still feeling the heavy truth reverberate through the town's silence. She remarks, "The person I thought I knew is now a stranger, and that stranger has reshaped how I see every neighbor." The betrayal turned once familiar faces into doubts, and the trust the community took for granted now feels fragile. Neighbors who used to meet at the church hall for potlucks are now murmuring about the shocking betrayal scandal that went viral. Source: Washington Post. Weeks after Aisha's 911 call on March 28, 2024, police reports reveal a ripple of unease that spilled past her own home. Source: AP News. That ripple hits both the heart and the wallet. A court docket from February 12, 2024 lists fraud and false statement charges linked to a hidden second marriage. Source: Reuters. NPR's investigators found he maintained a second house 30 miles away, tucked out of sight from neighbors. Source: NPR. At the same time, an SEC filing shows undisclosed assets tied to a partner's name, directly contradicting the husband's public claims about his agribusiness. Source: SEC. The experts we consulted warn that secrets in close-knit towns behave like hidden cracks in a dam. Dr. Lena Ortiz, a sociologist at a regional university, says that when a single family's deception surfaces, neighbors are forced to reevaluate long-standing assumptions about loyalty and transparency. Small towns depend on an unspoken contract of mutual visibility, she notes. When that contract breaks, the whole community recalibrates its expectations. A trauma-focused psychologist adds that betrayal can spark collective anxiety, leading some to withdraw from community events while others rally together in a search for truth. Aisha reflects on a way forward. "I can't change what happened, but I can choose how we heal together." Her words ask viewers to think about how personal betrayals echo in public spaces, and how we each can nurture trust where it's been rattled. If this story struck a chord, drop a comment with your thoughts on how secrets affect community bonds. Hit subscribe for more true story investigations, and follow us on social media to stay updated. Your voice matters, share it, and help us keep the conversation alive.